Hey guys, welcome back to the vlog, welcome back to the farm. I know I haven't been giving you guys any car content, but today is going to be a car content. And I'm a little bit rusty, but so is this next project. When we moved to the farm, we actually never needed really to go down to Manila or use any of my cars to do anything because we've been stuck here. But ever since then, we actually have been driving from the farm to the beach and just back and forth. So this truck right here, this truck is everything. I'm gonna be having some mods arriving for this truck, and I'm excited to do that later on. But for now, it's not about this truck, it's going to be about the people's car. Now, what is the people's car? It's the Volkswagen Beetle. I hope you don't hear any of the heavy construction or the birds or the dogs rustling around. But anyway, the people's car is the Volkswagen Beetle, which was actually, coincidentally, my first car. My first car was a 1303 1974 Super Beetle, and when I bought it at 15 years old, my dad was so angry with me because I ended up bringing it home and he saw it and it's like, this is a complete nightmare. It was a disaster. As he pulled the carpet off, all the rust was showing and I didn't know anything. I was just too excited to buy my first car. This is when I got my hands really dirty into cars because my dad ended up hiring people to work at home, so after school I could rush home, get my hands dirty, learn on the restoration, body working, engine rebuilding, painting process, and it was all done in the house. Now the project took longer than I expected, but I ended up modifying that whole thing. It was silver paint, drop, de-chromed one-piece windows, dual carburetors. It was actually such a nice build that I tried to buy the car back, but I couldn't. So anyway, moving forward, I needed something to match the times. I needed a project to keep me entertained, to enjoy driving in the beach, and something cheap and affordable to maintain. Now the Volkswagen Beetle is absolutely easy to maintain. It's tons of parts available, and this style that I got is actually a Baja style already. It's got the raised suspension, it's got the cut fenders, it's got the snub nose front with the middle lights, and it has extractors and dual carbs already running a 1600cc engine. Now this bug is a rust bucket, but that's okay because we are going to be leaving it at the beach, which means we don't need to really worry about it. So let's unveil this project right now. One of the nice things with these old Volkswagen Beetles is this car right here is only about 800 kilos, which means it's very light. This has the 1600 dual port motor already with the Solex twin side or single side carburetor. It's been stripped, gutted, undercoated all around. Now there is some rust everywhere and there's nothing I can do about that right now but spray it down and maybe paint it black. I might paint it a black and gray camo because it already has the basis for that look. Now this thing should start right up because Volkswagens are known for their bulletproof reliability. This isn't the first time we tried to crank it. I have tried to crank it, but it didn't start because the battery wasn't strong enough. Today we have a stronger battery. We're gonna hook that up real quick and then see if it's gonna fire up. It's got nice quick release fasteners, which makes clamping it down a breeze. We need to add a battery bracket right here so that this thing doesn't scoot around. But for now, it should be enough. Let's fire it up. First things first, buying any used car, you want to check the oil level. Make sure that the engine does have some oil. The oil is a little bit dark. Doesn't smell burnt, doesn't smell fuelish, so we should be good. Some oil markers. Now most of the new cars don't even have dipsticks anymore, so this is a thing of the past. Seeing our oil level, we are good to go. This is the switch panel. There's no more ignition system. We have a light there, and this is the start. Neutral. Here's a quick tip that you can use to hack your way. You want to put some gas down the carburetors to give it some help. Whoop. Okay guys, we just finished having lunch. We're back in the garage, and a while ago when the car started, it was so noisy that I couldn't really say anything. But a while ago when it started, it was idling too high, it was still misfiring, and I noticed that there is a missing bolt for one of the header flanges, and also it's leaking a little oil on the right head. And lastly, the extension tubes that we made for the vacuum tool are also leaking, which means I'm not getting any accurate vacuum. So first order of business is to remove the linkages so that we can tune the carburetors first and then figure out why it's idling so high. And then after that, hopefully we can go test drive it. This carburetor is a Solex carburetor, and this is our idle screw, and this is our mixture screw, and this is the jetting. Now I can already see that, you know, the thing is old, but it still works, and apparently this is one of the more reliable upgrades that you can do. What I was coached in is to close this fully and then open it with 2 turns. 1, 2. And then we're going to do this also to the other side, and after that we're going to remove the linkage so that we can fix this and hopefully get it to idle very nicely. I ended up removing the linkages, which is down here, which is attached to the throttle connector. So this is the swivel plate which pulls both linkages. I took those out first. We're going to try to start it again and see how the idle is from now. It's running, amazing, although there are some issues with the motor. I'm going to see if we can do a quick test drive now, not going too far. Brake. Okay, brakes work. battery is moving. We just parked the car, we made it back. I went around the hill, I went to visit Stru. The car is running, it is hard starting, it's very difficult to drive. The brakes are very deep. There are things that we need to fix. I saw that the brake lines definitely are so spongy, they need to be replaced. The fuel is leaking from the carburetor on one of the pins, and also there are other things that we need to fix, like check the timing, fix the battery bracket down, and then fix all the bulbs, and then wire in the gauge oil sensor module so that we get an oil light if we're low oil pressure. But beyond that, it's so much fun to use, and we're gonna do a little shopping list so that we can complete some of the parts. Like I need a door handle opener, the handbrake doesn't work, I need some side mirrors on it also. It's a lot of fun, very nostalgic. The engine, although it lacks in power, it's actually still pretty happy to rev up. I didn't get to do anything much because I do want to double check the brake system because I feel like only the front right is locking. Thank you to Andy Ferreria for helping me out diagnose and troubleshoot this bug. Hopefully we can get it running so that we can bring it to the beach. What is that? Down. Hey guys, so yesterday when I ended the vlog, I quickly realized that I shouldn't just end there. I should show you guys in detail what needs to be done to this car, what are the things that I figured out from the short test drive yesterday, and what are the things that we're going to be fixing. Most of these things for the bug that I need to repair, I'm going to try to do with my own skill set, but eventually I might need some help. But for now, we're going to go through the things that I saw went wrong yesterday. So first off, we had very hard starting. I was advised to check the timing, check the spark plug condition, clean that possibly, and then recheck our carburetor idle mixture. We're also going to check the brakes. The brakes are very spongy, and a quick look yesterday was the front brake lines are almost going to explode. So let's start with the hood. Okay, problem with the hood is it's got rust and stuff where you can get cut. So we're going to need to weld some of these things, and I do like that this is sprayed down with undercoat. We got a major problem. The cap is leaking, so this is drenched with brake fluid, which is dripping down the inside wall, which has happened before because the rust on this side is much worse than the rust on this side. Look how old this thing is. I don't know if this thing is original, but there you go. That is definitely needs a replacement. On our gauge side, we don't have the warning light for the oil pressure, which we should add, knowing that this is a air-cooled, oil-cooled engine. It needs the oil pressure light. Also, we're lacking a speedometer cable here. I don't know if the wiper motor works, but we definitely need to revive that because we need some wipers. So this Volkswagen was already upgraded to front disc, or it came with front disc brakes. I'm not quite sure. But if you look at the brake lines, which is over here, look how terrible the condition is. It's cracking, it's very soft, and this is one of the causes when you feel the brake pedal, it feels very spongy. So what's happening now is when I brake, the pressure expands the line, and rather than sending the pressure down to the caliper, it just bounces around in here, which gives us that very spongy brake pedal. Here is the major rust I was showing you. It's much worse on this side. We're going to have to strip some of the paint here and see how bad this is going to get. Moving into the cabin, I really don't like the seats. The seats need to be changed. It's also the angle and I guess the position, and I guess the overall, it's too laid back for me. This is not a good seat. Battery does need a bracket, and reducing the other pin, which is maybe inside the car. We're gonna find out. I brought you down here so I can show you guys the pedals. Huge issue with these brake pedals or the clutch pedal is it's wobbling. Also this guy, and then this is worse. So this is like completely wobbling. You can see the brake fluid dripping down here on this column here. Getting the gauge to work. At least the fuel level works, I think. I was advised that the headlights plus the fog lights on the roof might actually be too much load for my alternator, which means I shouldn't use it that much because I will discharge this battery. I do need some side mirrors as well. And then moving on to the back, I did notice a few issues already with the rear. The suspension seemed to have dropped on that side, which means maybe the torsion bar needs to be replaced and readjusted. Moving to the motor, I definitely need to adjust the carburetors again, but checking the timing, removing the spark plugs and figuring out if we're firing on all cylinders, finding a bolt for this, replacing this fuel line because that's definitely a hazard that needs to be done. After that, we will be removing all the wheels, removing the drum brake, checking if the brake shoe is still biting, cleaning it out, checking the spring tension so that we can make the handbrake work so that we can park the car on a hill. The torsion spring is all the way down, so this is actually a bigger repair because I need to pull out the beam and pull out the plate and then readjust it to go in. So this might be more difficult than ever, but we definitely need it because the bug is squatting on this side. On the motor side, I think rebuilding the carburetors makes sense. Getting a new linkage because this linkage does pop out when I just push it up. Maybe getting a higher powered alternator. Last, at the steering wheel, there's a huge slack, but this should be easy to fix. This is just the worm drive. So that definitely we will go over. Other things that we need to repair are these small details, looking at the suspension bushings, the ball joints, and then just making sure that everything's in order. We did pre-align the car before we even videoed or ran the car because it did have a bent front tie rod, which was almost impossible to remove without really banging your knuckles into the interior space. So I actually got some help to do that so that I didn't need to do all that hard work. But we are going to do some hard work and double check everything. I don't have some help today, so we'll see how far we get in this section. If you can see these marks, these are factory marks on the flywheel, which means if we align that to the crack on the block, we can get the timing for the Volkswagen. So we're going to rotate the wheel. Okay, this is hard to do with one hand. There you go. So I'm just going to time it to that line with the crack on the block in the back, and that should be, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 7 degrees. Looks like this is facing top dead center already, which is over here on this cylinder. We're now going to try to time it according to the instructions we saw on another YouTube video. According to our test light, we are actually on timing. That's not a good sign then. Hopefully maybe the hard starting was the carburetors. I do feel like I'm leaning out. So right now, because we are in timing, if I adjust the distributor off timing, okay, this timing idea did not work. I don't know if it's because the distributor is a very different system, but we're just going to put it back and request for a timing light. Although I'm thinking if we should try to start it and see if anything made a difference from cleaning the spark plugs. This has a little notch here, which means we can't invert it. There you go. It's weird, the two tutorials I saw on video says it's gonna work with the just the probe light, but both of them actually turn on when as soon as I mount it. So right now I'm manually trying to do it, which we shouldn't. Even the brake drum, I need to figure out if I have an adjustable wrench which is big enough to do that. If I do, then we're gonna continue to do that, and then after that we will proceed to the front section. This is so funny. I found a bottle cap and it fits. It says win exciting prizes. Can you guess where this cap came from? And it's going to do for now.
Take it personal, I ain't lying, I ain't hiding, I've been grinding, multiplying. I've been trying to get my weight up, staying prayed up, meditating and taking time away. You always posting up pictures, trying to look like you winning. I'm writing rhymes in the kitchen, soaking in moments we live in, yeah. You got the nerve to be on me, faking your life but I hide you. If you got my number, don't add me, cause baby, I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus. I'm on hiatus.
This wheel is off, but we've lost one socket there also.
Baby, don't check for me. Taking time.
Front disc brake looks pretty worn in. Has some friction. I'm guessing this caliper stuck up too. So this guy's stuck up and we're now proceeding to heat the bolt because when metal is hot it contracts just a little. So hoping this works. We put some WD-40 on it and yet nada. The other side was much looser than this side. This side's beginning to be the problem side. Although I can't remove that side also because the bolt rounded into the impact gun. It's another day here in the farm, and yesterday I had to leave the Beetle because I had some farm duties also to accomplish in the afternoon. I did get some video of our new baby pony, Sophia, running around with her mom Luna, and that was such a treat. Hopefully the super slow-mo on this new camera is going to look amazing. Anyway, yesterday when we left off the Beetle, a few things were discovered and very shocking, and a few things were also learned about the car. Stuff I was very unhappy about, so I ended up messaging the seller asking like, hey, you said that the chassis was not rusted so much and that the car is usable already. Upon jacking it up yesterday, we figured out that the whole floor pan is garbage. The front bulkhead is literally about to rip off the floor pan, and then the rear right torsion tube where it holds on the torsion plate, it is completely rusted out. One bump and it's going to go down. In the start of the video when I said the bug was saggy on this side, that's why it was saggy. Literally the suspension point where it mounts to the chassis is ripping off. And yes, I gave the owner a piece of my mind, or the seller the piece of my mind, and I was just really livid asking him if I could return the Beetle. and ask for my money back because that's not what we had agreed on. Long story short, I had called Andy again, and Andy linked me up with this Volkswagen builder who's apparently a little closer to the farm than the city. He's just in Laguna, and he does some amazing work on custom Volkswagens, and he has a local fabricated floor pan which is a little thicker gauge also, which he can assemble and sell for me. And lo and behold, he's also building a Baja Bug, but he's doing the full Monty of Subaru engine, converter transmission, along with the long travel suspension, the roll cage. So I ended up ordering a new floor pan with a roll cage already bolted onto it, and I asked him if he could actually schedule a mechanic to come over and help me bring down the motor and fix all the oil leaks. Maybe we're going to end up converting also the gearbox and the rear suspension to independent rear suspension, so we can get just a slighter longer travel. I'm hoping Rudel can pull through and give me maybe at least 8 inches of travel rather than the stock like 5 inches of travel. I think I'll be pretty happy with that. Now, we're not gonna go bonkers on this build. We want to do a beach build which is reliable, affordable, and something we don't care that we're going to get it wet in the rain or bring it into the sand. And this is it. So that was a lot. What's gonna happen is the Bug has to get body lifted, where we're going to separate the shell from the chassis, and then we're also going to dismantle the running gear, which is the suspension and the front torsion beam, the rear torsion beams, along with the transmission and engine. Everything else gets dropped and moved over to the new floor pan with roll cage that Rudel is building. I told him I don't really care for the body with rust holes because I think that gives it character, but the floor pan is the ultimate rigidity of the whole chassis, and that needs to be solid, especially if we're going through bumps and dunes and stuff. Yesterday we even had a problem removing the bolts because one of the nuts got stripped with the impact gun and the actual lug got stuck onto the bolt. This one over here is the big issue. The center lock nut is stuck, like it's completely stuck. We need to probably either split it or hit it with an acetylene torch. I tried a heat gun, but that wasn't enough heat. This Bug also has a twin shock conversion that's not original, and we're going to get rid of that. So the main problem that I was talking about is over here. Here's the main problem that we're facing. This is the suspension point where the suspension meets the chassis, and that is shearing off all the way around to the top. It is shearing off. It's only held by this little metal bit right here. That is terrible. That really is a disaster waiting to happen, and if safety is our main concern, which is always the case, then that needs to be replaced. What sucked was that I actually got the engine to almost one click, and I was excited to try it out again until I saw the condition of that thing. Here's the other disc brake that we removed. It was so dirty, so gunky. Definitely all that needs to be cleaned. I think the brake shoes have soaked in too much oil already for it to be useful. Here in the front, this is the condition for the disc. And I think this guy's stuck up. It's having a hard time to roll. So under here, besides this is superficial damage. We will go underneath and show you the problems. So that's splitting. So what's happening here is the actual center bulkhead, which creates most of the stiffness for the Volkswagen, is splitting. There. Major split in the bulkhead. After I found out that there was so much rust on the floor pan of this thing, I got so frustrated and I went out for a rip just to stress release, and after that my head was cool already. talked to the owner of the bug, the guy who sold it to me, and he's saying, full disclosure, he doesn't know that it was rusted through, and he thought that it was fine. I don't believe that. If you race your car, you should know what your car condition is like, because that is very dangerous. He agreed that he would send me some money back so that I can buy a new floor pan and redo the whole thing. Thank God Andy hooked me up with Rudel, who has a car shop in Laguna, who's going to be visiting us in about 2 weeks to check out the project. But he already started working on the floor pan, and we're looking to convert the gearbox and the rear suspension to an independent rear suspension. We're going to just recap and rebuild the whole car, but we're going to do it in a budget way. We're going to rebuild the carburetors on the car. We're going to rebuild the oil leaks on the engine, maybe do some head work, and then we're going to rebuild the gearbox or change it to the IRS gearbox, so that's going to be refreshed. The brakes need to be completely overhauled as well. The calipers aren't moving. The rotor discs are a bit shoddy. The brake drums at the back, one is seized, one is covered with like brake oil and brake gunk, so it's absolutely useless. So fixing all the electricals and just getting everything to a dependable working order so that we can leave it at the beach and enjoy having a beach Baja buggy. You can really hear the rear suspension carrying slowly and just giving way every time we hit a bump. Not even a big bump, we're just in first gear and yet we're experiencing that crunching noise. Yeah, I can't wait to rebuild this thing completely so that we can just go, drive. Ideally we want some long travel suspension in it, something a little longer than what this has, but we'll see what we can get. Is it gonna start? Come on, baby. Almost. I do have a battery pack here in case things go wrong, but we're gonna park the buggy first and maybe end the vlog here and update you guys again when some other work is happening. There we have it. Yes. Not the Baja bug that I'm dreaming of, but a good base project for us to start. Okay, gonna make the U-turn. It is so hot today. Okay guys, I think we can officially end the vlog here. I'll see you guys again in the next video. Peace.